Good evening, and welcome to Creative Broadcasting, the station of unlimited possibilities. Presents Creating Your Seat at the Table with your host, Ashley Little, as she welcomes her guest to the table.
Welcome to Creating Your Seat at the Table. I am your host, Dr. Ashley Little, corporate executive by day, serial entrepreneur by night, CEO and founder of Ashley Little Enterprises, LLC, and founder and owner of Talk Radio and TV Network, LLC. Tonight, I have an amazing special VIP guest by the name of Claudia Walker. A little bit about her. Claudia Walker is an Oakland-based author, teacher, and entrepreneur. In 2019, she founded the Black Toy Store, an online children's toy store that reflects the beauty and diversity of the African diaspora. The website has been featured in the New York Times, Essence, and Vogue. Most recently, Claudia launched HBCU Prep School, a publishing company that centers Black voices and Black joy in children's books. Her debut title, The ABCs of HBCUs, is inspired by her undergraduate experiences at Spelman College. Welcome to the table, the amazing Claudia Walker.
Hello. It's so good to be here. I'm excited.
Yes, I'm excited to have you at the table. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come to the table. And I know people have heard about how amazing you are, but please tell us more about your journey.
Oh, wow. So like you said, I'm Oakland-based, but I was born and raised in Oakland, and I was raised by two educators who really instilled in me the importance of getting an education. And as you mentioned, I went on to Spelman College, had an amazing experience there. And because I grew up on the West Coast in California, I didn't really have a lot of access to HBCUs. And so I really credit my mom, who is an alumna of Savannah State, for, exposing me, even on the West Coast. With that limited exposure, she really shared with me a lot of the stories and her experiences of going to an HBCU. And then once I graduated from Spelman, I did a lot of things. I ended up in New York, was working on Wall Street in finance, and then I ended up coming back to California. I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. And so I did a lot of things between, by the time I came home and until now. But once I started having children, I really wanted to make sure that at an early age, I, like my mom, was exposing them to HBCUs, but I had the same issue that she had, where I'm raising them on the West Coast, where our access is a lot different. And so that's kind of how the journey came about, where I decided to start the writing process and I started penning the ABCs of HBCUs.
I love that. So let's go deeper. Why are you so passionate about sharing Black voices and Black joy in children's books?
Because you don't find that a lot. And I will say this. I think over the years, especially because, the internet gives us access to so many things that we otherwise wouldn't have access to. So, the publishing world has really been kind of kicked open by platforms like Amazon. There are other small print-on-demand publishers which allow creatives to be able to write their own stories. And so I think that now that you don't necessarily have to secure a deal with a major publishing company, I can say that we are seeing more books come to market, but it's still not enough. I've heard a statistic, I don't have it in front of me, but I know that I think it was maybe 2019 that there were more books published about animals than there were about children of color combined. And so that's not just Black kids or Latinx kids, but that's all books about children of color. And so, that makes it clear that there are not enough books that share the experiences of Black joy, and so I wanted to make sure that my children, my students, children around the world have access to stories that reflect their experiences, or if not their experiences, that give them inspiration to dream big. And so sometimes we see stories that are very important, that are about the struggle, that are about, the voyage from our motherland through the Middle Passage or the Civil Rights Movement. But I wanted to make sure that the stories that our kids are reading aren't always about the struggle, or that they aren't always about oppression, right? Or always about, us being victimized in some way. It's an important part of our history, and it's important for our children to know that. But I think that it's important for kids to just be kids and to experience through books the joy of just their beautiful Blackness. And so that's what inspired me to start writing.
I love that. And that's so important, right? Thank you for shining light and creating and dominating the space, because it's not dominated enough. So I just want to give you kudos for doing that. And I saw the amazing impact that your movement, your book, and this series it has had on people already. And so I'm just excited to see what all you have, plans to continue to do with it.
Thank you, Dr. Ashley. I'm really, really excited as well. And I'm just excited. I'm more than being excited, I'm really humbled by the feedback, because as a creative, God gives you ideas and you fall in love with them, but, you don't necessarily know how other people will respond to it. So I'm really humbled by the feedback, the positive feedback.
I love that. And so I know we have listeners that are on that are probably looking to, write a children's book, and, they want to join the movement of, changing the narrative. And so first I want to talk about, you are the CEO and founder of HBCU Prep School, which is a publishing company as well. So let's talk more about your company, the services that you offer, and let's, talk to our listeners about what makes yours unique.
Yeah, so obviously once I finished writing the book, I had to figure out what route I would take. And I felt, so I finished writing the book. I started about 2 years ago now, maybe 2.5 years ago. So when I finished the process, I started looking for an illustrator, and even beyond that, just thinking, okay, well, once I find the illustrator, what's the next step? How do I make sure that it's formatted properly? How do I get these books printed? And so I really started researching, and I got tired, to be quite honest. I felt like, listen, I poured energy into writing this book. I don't know if I have it in me to try to figure out all these other steps. And so I did think about trying to find, representation to maybe have it published by a mainstream publisher. And then I decided against it. Some of the main reasons is that I wanted to get to market quickly. I just felt like this book has been on my heart for 2 years. I don't want to have to wait another 2 years for the book to get to market. I also wanted to have control over what the illustrations would look like. And I was aware that if I went with a mainstream publisher, that they would decide, and I probably wouldn't have a lot of input, especially being a first-time author. And so I decided that I really had no other choice but to self-publish. And so I, figured out that process, or I am actually still figuring out that process. And I decided to name the publishing company HBCU Prep School for a number of reasons, mainly because I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, I am also an administrator, I've been a principal before, and I always dreamed of opening my own school until, you have those moments where, until I became a principal, I think, and I put in so much time and so much energy, and I was also starting my own family, and it was just hard. I just knew that I really didn't have it in me to go through the process of launching a school. And so for me, this publishing company is my own way of having a school where obviously I'm not, I'm not having children come into the building, but I'm actually able to reach more children, more students, more families, have a greater impact because I'm able to educate through this publishing company. And so I have had people ask me if, I take on other authors to publish their books or to coach. And that's definitely in the works. It's not something that I offer right now because I've only been doing this for 3-4 months. So, once I get a little bit more experience under my belt and can really, be able to coach someone to figure out or to share with them the processes that I've been through, or once I have a whole team on board and I understand that this is a well-oiled machine, then that'll be the next step for me. But right now, it's really about me putting out, content.
I love that. And like I said, kudos for what you're doing, because that's so important. I see a lot of, just based off just what you just said, a lot of different things coming out of this. So can't wait to see that. And so with our listeners that are listening, what are some strategies that you would give to aspiring authors who are looking to write a children's book, that want to get into this children's book field in general, right? And they really want to, because this industry needs to be, it's a lot of opportunity there. So what's some advice you would give to those aspiring authors?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to define your why. So why are you doing it? I know that some people, I was talking to someone yesterday and they said, well, I want to write a book for my child, for my children, to talk about my experiences. And, as I mentioned, because there's so many, they're on-demand publishers, they're vanity publishers, you can actually do that and not necessarily make a business out of it. Some of us want to be able to write stories or to, put together an account of our family history and, be able to pass that on to our children. So first, I think it's defining that. Maybe it's not necessarily writing just for your family. Maybe you really want to impact a broader market. So defining your purpose in doing it. Are you trying to educate? Do you want to entertain? What's your why behind it? And I think that's so important, because you will come upon roadblocks and obstacles. And if you can go back to that why, it can get you motivated and encouraged in times where you may be wondering whether it's worth it. And then I think it's also important to just survey the market. So what currently exists, what types of books are people looking for, and then figure out what are the stories that you want to tell, and how is that particular genre or the types of stories that you're looking to tell, how is that either the same or different from what already exists? If it's similar to something, then figure out, because sometimes we think that we gotta, we have to recreate the wheel. So if it's similar to something that already exists, then you can look at those books and figure out where that market is and how you can build upon what's already doing well. If it's, stories that aren't necessarily in the market right now, then, that may be an indicator that the field is wide open and that people are looking for those kinds of stories. And so, again, it's figuring out, getting very clear on why you want to write, and then figuring out what types of books you want to write, and then just writing. I think probably the reason why it took me so long to write, apart from the fact that I'm still working a full-time job and I have a family, is that I'm so big on researching. And sometimes I research so much that it pushes me to a place of paralysis. And so if you're anyone like me, then you got to get to a point where you've researched as much as you can. You have the information that you need. Yes, of course, you could continue to research for another year, but if you really believe that there's a need for your book, then there comes a time where you say, all right, I've done the best that I can to prepare. Now it's time for me to put everything that all the information that I've compiled, the experiences, the inspiration, now I've got to put pen to paper and just start writing. So that's the advice that I would give. I think once you start writing and once you start crafting those stories, then the other pieces start falling into place a little quicker.
And thanks for sharing it. Just writing. I just did a Clubhouse room literally right before this show about how to, for my writers, right? And I was like, you just need to start, right? Just start. And that goes to children's books, adult books, all of it, right? Just get started.
Yep. Yeah, because you can just get stuck. You can get so stuck and trying to perfect things. I'm also a bit of a perfectionist. So it's like, oh, this idea isn't good enough. I need to take a more creative angle. And at the end of the day, you just need to write. You can improve on it later. You know, you can tweak it later, but just start writing something.
I 100% agree. And I want to go deeper here with children's book. And I know this is important for all books, but I definitely want to dig deeper here as well. Why is it so important for, authors to hire the right team when it comes to your illustration? Those things are important. Your illustrations, your editing, formatting, those key things are important to make sure that your book is a great representation of you, because your book is your brand.
Yep.
Can you speak on that? The investment and why they should invest. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, as a writer, it's interesting because it's one of the least expensive things that you can do, right? You don't need much of anything in order to write. All you need is your own creativity. You don't even need electronics. You can go old school, get some paper and a pencil and really write your story. And so, but once you do that, you know, if you want to make this a business, if you want to build a lasting brand, then you've got to make sure that your work is exceptional. And so, yes, your talent is amazing, but if you got typos, if if your margins are, disjointed and they're running all over the place, if your illustrations don't reflect the story, if it doesn't look like something that's appealing and something that is well thought out, then that tells readers something about your brand. It tells them that, you're not really in this. This is just maybe a hobby and people don't take you seriously. And so it's incredibly important that you have a team. And I knew that I love the words that are on the page. I was inspired to write them. It's about the Black college experience. It's about Black culture. It's about Black history. But, if I had skimped on, or not just skimped, but if I didn't take time to find the right illustrator, and it was just someone who, just was looking for a gig, wanted to make a little bit of money, and just figured, okay, I'm gonna just sketch out a little boy here, I'm gonna just add some ponytails here, then it would not have felt as authentic. And even the cover of my book, I give so much credit to the book's illustrator, Jessica Boyd, because if the cover didn't look good, there's a high likelihood that people wouldn't even stop to say, oh, let me check out what may be on the inside of this book. Let me give the book a chance. And so you are legitimately putting together a team of people who hopefully have a shared vision and a shared passion around your work. And if you don't have people who are as excited about your project, then you need to get another team. You need to find some other people who are going to put in the same sweat equity that you did into creating a project, into creating a book that will stand the test of time, that you can be proud of, that other people are going to want to buy, and that will be passed down from generation to generation.
Thanks for sharing. That was so well put and so important. So I hope our listeners are taking notes, because Claudia is sharing some amazing nuggets. So, Claudia, I know that you attending the Spelman College played a big
the
part.
Spelman.
You creating this amazing movement, this book. So I want to go deeper there. So tell us more about how your HBCU experience influenced you to create this amazing movement.
Yeah. So, I think for me, it was really about these dichotomy of worlds that I lived in. Growing up, as I mentioned, I lived in California, and I also attended predominantly white schools. Mm-hmm. And my parents did a great job of finding balance for me in terms of my extracurricular activities. And my mom's family is from Georgia. My dad's family is from Mississippi. So we go visit during the summer. And so, and then I grew up in the church. So I was always immersed in Black culture, but I definitely felt like there were different worlds that I lived in. And so going to, and then I actually wasn't completely sure that I was going to go to an HBCU. It was definitely on the list, but I was, I planned to apply to schools here in California, like the UC system. And I remember going to I think it was a college planning night at my school where they helped you put your applications together and fill out forms. And I remember going, and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was me just thinking about what I wanted the next 4 years of my life to look like. But in the middle of filling out the forms at the workshop, I literally, Dr. Ashley, put my pen down and said, I'm not applying. And I was planning to apply to the different UCs, like UCLA. I didn't want to go to UC Berkeley because I lived very close, and I knew that I wanted to at least get on a plane to go to school. So I put the pen down and I said, I'm not applying to any of these schools. I'm going to an HBCU. And I went home and made the announcement to my parents. I only applied to Spelman and Howard. And I got into both schools and just decided to go to Spelman for many reasons, but also, like I said, my mom is from Georgia, so I had family there. But it was the first time in my life when I stepped onto that campus that I just felt at home. I didn't feel the need to explain. I didn't feel the need to necessarily, when you go to a predominantly white school, you are you looking for the black people. Like, where is the black section? Where are the black kids in the cafeteria? That's not to say I didn't have white friends, but you just want to be with people who have a shared experience. And so when I went to Spelman, it was a culture shock for me. It was like, oh, wait a minute. So I don't have to explain. I don't have to find the black kids in the cafeteria because we're all black. And so it was just such an amazing experience from not just, the people who, the girls that lived in my dorm, but, my professors, I literally on a weekly basis talk about the cleaning staff in my dorm because they were such a part of my life. The people in the cafeteria, it just felt like a family. And I'd never had that feeling before outside of my family. I never felt that way at any other school or institution that I had gone to. And so, and then in addition, it's Spelman, the Spelman College, and it's an all women's institution. So you can't help but leave there feeling completely affirmed and confident in who you are as a Black woman. And I am forever indebted for that experience. And when, sometimes it takes some time, right? I mean, you know that you're experiencing something that's unlike anything else, but time and distance also puts things into perspective. And then becoming a parent and being a teacher, as an educator, my job is to get my students to dream big and to think about all the opportunities that exist and that they can create. And for me, those things, I always went back to Spelman, the lessons that I learned at Spelman, and I wanted to create something that would allow kids to be able to read something and just kind of, take them on this campus to campus tour of these incredibly rich institutions. And so those are the ways that Spelman really inspired me to create the book.
I love this. I love it. And so where do you see HBCU Prep in the next 5 years? I know you probably can't share everything, but whatever you can share, where do you see this amazing company and movement in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I am really on like my Master P grind right now. I have so many projects. Like literally last night, I could not sleep. Because my mind was just racing. There are all of these things that I'm trying to get out, and I'm a one-woman show. And my husband helps me, but he's not the creative person. And so I am. It's just more of what what you've seen from the ABCs of HBCUs. more, extensions to those projects or to that particular book, maybe about 5, 6, maybe different versions or extensions of that title. And then I have at least, 3 other book titles, again, with about 6 different extensions to those. And so I guess it's really, I kind of think of myself as a school. So this is our first year. And when you are first starting a school, you maybe start with 1 grade level or 2 grade levels, right? And then each year your kindergartners become first graders, and then the next year they're second grade, and then they graduate. And so that's how I'm seeing this, where there are more projects. I am really focused on partnering with different school and community organizations, and really trying to create not just books, but different types of curriculum that organizations and schools will be able to use in support of, providing more equitable and culturally responsive instruction and resources to students in school districts.
I love it. And so to everybody that's listening, make sure you support Claudia's movement. What she's doing, she's really dominating this space, and it really needs to happen, right? And she's taking control and changing the narrative. And I want to dig deeper in here, too, because I remember when I talked to you a couple weeks ago, we talked about this, but I definitely know it needs to be said tonight. Why is it important for our youth to have people who look like you and I, and, being able to read books at an early age to see themselves, right? Why is that so important?
Yeah, I mean, we know that literacy holds the key to everything, right? If you're not able to read, then you can't really negotiate. It's hard. It's more challenging, let's say, to negotiate your way through the world. And they also talk about this 1,000,000-word gap. They talked about looking at Black young children, and when they're not read to from an early age, or they don't have an opportunity to develop a love for reading because the characters in the stories don't look like them and they don't share the same experiences. They talk about how at a certain age there is a 1,000,000-word gap between Black students and white students, meaning that there's 1,000,000 words that they haven't even been exposed to because they haven't fallen in love with reading. And so we know that part of that is because, at one point, or not at one point in time, I think things are slowly changing, but when I was in school, the majority of the books that were considered classics were books that were, written by white people and, did not have Black characters as the main character. And so it's incredibly important that the books reflect the students. And I think, it's important that children are able to see that there are authors who are writing books about them, because it's one thing to have stories where, you may have a Black protagonist, but if it's not authentic, meaning that it's not written by somebody who looks like them or who has that shared experience, then maybe there's something about the book that doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel authentic. And additionally, when children see people like me and you, it gives them another reason to dream. It gives them another reason to say, oh, wait a minute, there are all of these different opportunities that exist. And I think most children, they love to tell stories, right? I mean, kids have these amazingly vivid imaginations. And I think sometimes they don't necessarily know, I definitely didn't, what they could do with it, right? In school, so often there are just certain professions that we say, like, you can be this, you can be that, you can be, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be a teacher, a firefighter, right? These different careers. But we don't always talk about, well, if you're creative, if you like to write, well, yes, you could rap. Yes, you could become a poet laureate. Yes, you could write stories. Yes, you could be an orator. Yes, you could write speeches for politicians, right? You can ghostwrite. There's so many things that you can do as a writer. And so it's really about showing children all of the different types of options and opportunities that exist for them. That's what our role is as business women and as authors, to really show them the different opportunities that exist in different spaces.
I love that. And thanks for changing this narrative and providing solutions for us to be able to spread that awareness. So kudos. Claudia, see, I told you for my listeners that listen how amazing she is. So Claudia, would you please tell our listeners how they can go purchase the book? Because I want to make sure they know how they can go purchase the book right now.
Of course. So you can go to my website, which is hbcuprepschool.com, and order the book. It's actually the only way that you can order the book right now. But, we are working on figuring out different distribution channels. Right now, it's been, such a niche book that people are willing to just, go to the website. And Dr. Ashley, I love my customers. I love that HBCU community, the Black community, and I really pride myself on having a relationship with them and providing great customer service. And because this is my baby, I've been so reluctant to put it on Amazon and Amazon is great, but I'm like, sometimes I get stuff and it doesn't necessarily look like there was great care in, packaging it. And so I've been really reluctant to do that, but we will, start distributing with different retailers. But right now, yes, it's going to my website, hbcuprepschool.com.
I love it. So make sure you all go support and purchase the book right now. So Claudia, I asked all of my guests this question, and you have created multiple tables for others and for yourself. How did you create your seat at the table?
I just sat down. I'm like, listen, I am tired of standing, and I'm just gonna sit here, because I don't necessarily expect for anybody to pull out the seat for me. I don't expect for anybody to open the door. To be quite honest, I've been waiting a long time for the door to open, and that is probably another reason why it's taking me so long to get to where I'm at. And I just recognize that I cannot keep waiting. I just have to take what it is that I want. I've got to create something that is, exceptional. And I've just got to, there's the table, there's some chairs. I'm just going to pull it out for myself, sit down, and pull up my seat at the table. And so I'm here.
I love it. I love it. And thanks for not only pulling your seat up, but bringing others with you. And that's what makes a true leader. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what did failure teach you on your journey? A lot of people, they see the accolades, but they don't understand that the process is what's most important, right? So what did failure teach you on your journey?
Honestly, I think that even when I look back before I started doing this, I recognized that my failures were really opportunities for breakthroughs. And, I would give specific examples to my students about that. I have very clear memories of times where I felt like I failed. This is the worst thing that could happen. And it really ended up being a blessing in disguise. And so my failures just taught me that, that wasn't my time. I truly believe in God's divine timing. And so my failures taught me a lesson about what I needed to shift, what I needed to do better. Maybe I wasn't completely in tune with what God wanted for my life. Maybe I was trying to push the lever because I wanted to get there faster, or I wanted to do this thing. And God was like, but I didn't tell you to do that. So I just learned to, when I fail, to pause, figure out how I can realign, what I could do better. Also look at the things that I did well, and just figure out another strategy. What's going to be the next game plan, and how can I improve on what I did in order to be successful next time around.
I love that. It's all a lesson, right? It's all a lesson, right? And lessons are good. And
Absolutely.
So you're very successful. So what did success teach you?
To enjoy the journey. I'm recognizing that now, to enjoy the journey. I think so often we have these dreams of this is where I want to be. And I know right now I'm in the thick of things. I'm still working full time. I've got 3 children, one of which I'm homeschooling. The other I'm kind of sort of homeschooling. I'm a wife, and then I'm running this business, and so it's very easy to just focus on, the next thing, right? So you put this book out, okay, here's the next thing that I want to do, and to not take time to be truly grateful, to be truly in the moment, and to just enjoy the journey and the process. And so that's where I am at. I think sometimes it can be hard to define what success is. I'm in a state of gratitude right now. I feel incredibly blessed because I have failed or I don't want to say I've failed at things, but there are many things that I've tried to do in the past, and they didn't work out the way that I thought that they would. And so this HBCU prep school, and the book is, it's definitely, I now know what my purpose is. And so I'm learning to just enjoy the process, to not necessarily focus on this, what am I going to be doing 2 years from now, or what do I want sales to be, or how can this get better? I do have those conversations, but to just enjoy the journey. And for me, it's incredibly important because I'm a mom. And so, I measure things based on, my children's age. And so I don't want to miss moments with them because I'm so focused on, a particular thing with the business. So for me, the lesson is to just enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, and to be present.
Enjoy the journey, enjoy the process. That's so, so important.
Yeah.
So, so important. Thanks for sharing that. And so, what can we expect from the amazing Claudia Ball for the rest of 2021? We're getting ready to finish the first quarter, and we're in a new year, in a new decade, Claudia. So what can we expect from you?
That is crazy when you put it that way. I really want to continue to create great educational, inspiring work. I want to continue to collaborate and partner with other Black creatives, business owners, and to inspire the next generation of thought leaders and creators. And as I mentioned, I definitely want to get to a place where, I'm kind of going through, or growing through, right? So, right. So that I can at some point be able to help other people not face some of the same challenges or make the same mistakes that I have. So as an educator, I'm really big on giving back and on mentoring and on nurturing. And so I want to grow the business and then be able to turn around and say, all right, now let me help you get to where, you want to go, whether that's as an author, as a business person, or whatever it is. I definitely want to be in a position where I'm able to, just kind of live off of the sweat equity that I've put in and be able to be a blessing to other people.
I love that. And thanks for sharing that, because that's so important. Right, reaching back, right, creating and helping other people alleviate so they can not have to go through some of the same things that you went through. So
that's right.
Love that is your ultimate goal.
Yep, absolutely. Because because otherwise, what's the point? I don't want to. When we talk about changing the narrative, I think it's not just changing the narrative in the book, but it's changing the narrative about how we do business and how we are as a community. And so often, we often look at each other as competitors, right? Like there's only space for one person, and that's not true. And so I think in order for us to continue to actualize what it is that we want to see from our community and from our babies, we have to make sure that when we get those lessons, when we get those blessings, that we're able to bring others along on that journey. We're able to teach them and show them the ropes so that, if I already went through it, like, you don't have to recreate the wheel, right? There's already this path that's been laid. And so I just want to, hold my hand out and help you along, because there have been people who have been really gracious and really kind, and have, given me advice about what to do and what not to do. And so it's all about paying it forward.
Absolutely. So thank you again. And please tell our listeners, Claudia, how they can follow you and support you on all social media platforms and book you.
Yes. So I am on Instagram. The handle is HBCU Prep School. Same handle on Facebook and Clubhouse. And Dr. Ashley, I think on LinkedIn I'm Claudia Walker. I guess you can just look me up, Claudia Walker, HBCU Prep School on LinkedIn. And yes, you can on the website. There is an email address where you can reach out to me for, large orders, for speaking engagements. Just send me an email and we can figure it out.
So make sure you all book and collaborate and follow Claudia. She's definitely somebody to know and connect with. So, Claudia, thank you again for coming to the table, taking time out of your very busy schedule. This has been an amazing interview, and I cannot wait to invite you back to the table.
Thank you. I appreciate all. I know that you were interviewing me, but I'd be remiss to not just thank you for the work that you have been doing, the work that you continue to do, and for creating this platform for, other people in the community, and for offering a seat at the table. I appreciate that.
You are welcome. I just want to tell you, keep on shining. I love your movement, love everything that you're doing, and you have my full support.
That means the world to me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You are welcome. So I would like to give a special thanks to my intern, Sarah, from Tennessee State University, who is now a Tennessee State University alumni. And I will also like to give a special thanks to my intern, Vontaria, from Winston-Salem State University. So you all may follow me on Facebook at Dr. Ashley Little, and on Instagram, the _Ashley A. Little. Thank you.
I love it. Yes, HBCU.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Creating Your Seat at the Table, where Ashley speaks with corporate professionals, celebrities, entrepreneurs, authors, and speakers who are transitioning or have transitioned to entrepreneurship.